Good morning, traders. I am Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, June 14th. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are struggling to maintain record highs as the Dow is coming off yet another day in the red. Yesterday during regular trading, the S&P 500 added 12 points to end at 5,433 points. The NASDAQ gained 59 points to close at 17,677 points. The Dow was once again the day's only loser, dropping 65 points or 0.17%. Bill, let's get into Friday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. Hey, I'm watching the S&Ps. We're down 0.44%, almost half of 1% this morning. Not good. What's causing that move? There's a number of little factors here. I mean, first off, there's a big slide going on in Europe. The European markets, you're looking at, big drops over there. That's, concerning. There's this little company, MSC Industrials, it's kind of a bellwether for how the economy is going, and they're a part supplier to a lot of the industrial companies. Guess what? They get issued a profit warning last night, and that's kind of an indication of the state of the growth period of the economy. That's like cause investors to get a little worried when you see them doing a profit forecast warning. So you get the weakness in Europe, and then you get the profit warning forecast. You got to be a little worried about it. On the plus side, I mean, I do see ARM, ticker ARM, Apple, Richard Mary, they're going to be added to the NASDAQ 100 index later this month. Adobe, came out with, good earnings overnight. But, Europe, those political concerns in Europe, especially in France, have the indices on edge. And then I see Putin came out this morning and he said to have outlined conditions for peace talks with Ukraine. I find it funny that comes after that G7 summit, but okay, I get it. He's saying, I want all my territory that we've taken. You got to say no to being part of NATO. So, I mean, he really, from what I saw, he only laid out two terms, and I think those would be a little bit negotiable. But we'll have to wait and see what happens if there's any meat to that story. Okay, let's take a look at Europe. Let's see what's going on in Europe. We got the DAX is down 219 points. That's 1.2%. Ooh, that's ugly. You're looking at the, one of the things about Germany right now is they're concerned about China's response to those EU tariffs that they put on Chinese electric vehicles. I mean, you look at vehicle stocks in Europe right now. They are lower, flat to lower, but in tech stocks are just getting wrecked in Europe. Then you get the FTSE. The FTSE's down only 0.17% or 14 points. That's not too surprising because they got a central bank meeting next week. There's a bunch of central bank meetings, but the BOE is going to be the biggest one. And then in France, down 2.21% or 170 points. Listen, you got concerns over political concerns going on, and the market's concerned about possible stalling of reforms, credit rating downgrades, and even possible discussions about a breakup of the European Union. So I mean, these are things that are on the table that are really causing the markets to be a little nervous this morning. Then you got oil. I'm watching oil this morning, and oil's trading lower, flat to lower. Okay. Then it turned, and now it's trading higher. You get WTI up 0.5% to $79.02. You get Brent at $83.26, up 0.6%. I mean, it reversed course because the market's dealing with conflicting demand outlooks. OPEC is continuing to maintain its demand forecast of growth in 2023 at 2.2 million barrels a day. However, that Paris-based IEA, they cut their projections. To 960,000 barrels from 1.1 million barrels, citing weaker economic growth. That's a big difference, 2.2 versus 960. So yeah, I mean the market is a little nervous, and they want to know if there's going to be a shortfall or not. If there's a shortfall, all oil prices will be going higher. But that's what I have for you this morning in terms of a morning's market update report, Emily.
Bill, you did mention at least the Adobe earnings in there. Again, it's a slow period for earnings, but still these interesting companies to make note of. So we're going to start here this morning with earnings action. Bill, give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to earnings.
No kidding. It's a slow period for earnings, and next week is slow too. Doesn't really start to kick up until July, later in July when we kick off earnings season. But let's see what happened last night. We got Adobe, ticker ADBE, Apple, David Boy Edward. These guys beat by 39 cents. They did it on higher revenue. That stock's up 14.24%. Nice move. Then you got RH. They missed by 28 cents, but they did it on higher revenue. Their guidance was okay. Stocks trading lower this morning. We were cautious on this one. We knew there's going to be some volatility in the stock. And then upcoming, we got Lazy Boy, ticker LZB, Larry Zebra Boy. They're releasing Monday afternoon. Their EPS is 68 cents. Expected move is 11.85%. Then you get Lennar, the home builder, ticker LEN, Larry Edward Dancy. Their EPS is $3.20. Expected move is 6.29% when they release Monday afternoon, Emily.
And Bill, I will point out that RH was your pick of the day yesterday. Not a bad, terrible report, but we're going to be checking in with you by the end of the show on how that pick of the day went. Now we're going to get to the day's economic events. Bill, give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to economic events.
Yeah, 8:30 a.m. we get import-export prices. Then at 10 a.m. we get the consumer sentiment. This is the University of Michigan report. At 1 p.m. we get the Baker Hughes rig count. Then we got a lot of Fed speak. I mean, I see Loretta Mester, the Cleveland Fed. She's going to be speaking a couple of times, doing some interviews. Remember, she's leaving at the end of the month. Her term is up. So, whatever she says could actually be, valuable information. She might really give some insight because she's got nothing to lose. She's out the door at the end of the month. Then at 2 p.m., we're going to be hearing from Chicago Fed Bank President Austin Goolsbee. He's a big dove. And also 7 p.m. this evening, I see Fed Governor Lisa Cook will be speaking. Just another thing I want to point out, yesterday's, Treasury years fell, basically because those signs of U.S. inflation could be cooling faster than expected. You saw that PPI number come out. It unexpectedly fell 0.2% in May, following an increase of 0.5% in April. So, yeah, inflation seems to be getting a little bit better than, what everybody thought. So a September rate cut's still on the table. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic news, Emily.
Bill, watching all of that information using your NewsWare, you're also keeping track of other types of information and data, news coming out of segments. You're looking at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You also have your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks, your Dow 30 stocks, looking for trends on the trading day. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
What do I see moving markets? I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I'm showing 24 lower, 3 higher, and the rest unchanged. That's not good. That's a real indication of weak opening. Then you look at your FANG stocks. Everything's trading lower, fractionally lower, except for Tesla, which is showing some gains. So you got to be a little cautious going in. And, some news behind it, like Apple. A couple of female employees at Apple are proposing a class action lawsuit. This came out late yesterday, alleging that the companies pay women lower salaries than men for similar work. I mean, I'm sure that companies do pay, different genders, lower pay than other genders for similar work. It goes on. Is it just women? Maybe not. But I do notice that Google and Oracle settled similar claims in California in recent years. That's not a good sign for Apple. What else? Netflix has reached out to broadcasters this week to find a partner to help produce the 2 NFL streaming games that they're going to be doing on Christmas. This just kind of underscores the point that these guys are really committed to live sports, which could be a very big benefit for Netflix, for future growth. Tesla, hey, you know what? Must pay package, was approved. The thing about must pay package is Vanguard switched its vote at the 9th hour, and that really is what helped pass that pay package. Vanguard switching its vote. Now, remember, this is historical pay package. Stuff he kind of already earned, so it's kind of like wrong to kind of take away a deal that you already had. But this is coming from a judge. It started the whole thing, so the legalities of it still haven't ended, even though you did have a shareholders vote. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens. But Tesla is, seeing some gains this morning. Let's see if they're going to be having the ability to hold on to them. And I will say that Musk's pay package, that could reset CEO pay package, because that's enormous. I mean, so we'll have to see if that has any effect on other CEOs in the near future. Let's talk Dow Jones 30 stocks and Visa. A judge plans to block the Visa MasterCard fee settlement. It may not happen, but it looks like the judge is indicating that he's going to block it. Boeing, ticker BA. The FAA is investigating counterfeit titanium that's been found on Boeing and Airbus jets. The suppliers give them counterfeit titanium. Why would you do that? McDonald's, I just want to point out 30-day option implied volatility is at 16. The 52-week range is 16 to 23. And on June 25th, they're scheduled to release their $5 meal deals. So, you got McDonald's trading slightly higher this morning, but, that low vol indicates it's a good time to kind of consider looking at McDonald's for a longer term play. Yeah, they've had bad earnings as of late. There's a lot of weakness there because people aren't going there as much, but those meal deals could change things or turn things around. So keep an eye on McDonald's. 250. It's at 254 today, up 44 cents. We'll see if it goes higher. Let's talk merger news. Let's talk Paramount Global, ticker PARA. They had that deal with Skydance, and supposedly it was done. Sherry Redstone was going to take in the deal, but it apparently fell apart because Sherry Redstone became nervous. She became concerned. And what is she nervous about? Well, the likelihood of potential shareholder litigation over the deal. Well, that makes sense because there was going to be some. So, yeah, I could see why she walked away. Let's talk guidance news. Adobe, ticker ADBE. They see Q3 guidance coming in 450 to 455. Street estimates 448. Nice uptick. RH, ticker RH. They see Q2 revenue up 3 to 4%. Consensus is 8.59.3 million. So that's nice to see. And then there's MSC International, ticker MSM. Michael Sam. This is what I'm talking about. MSC Industrial, they see Q3 adjusted EPS coming in at $1.32 to $1.34. Street estimate had it at $1.55. That's a big downtick. That's one of the reasons the SPOOs are dropping this morning. Shareholders meetings. We got to talk about GameStop. They were having their shareholders meeting yesterday. They ran into technical issues. Something weird was going on. So they're going to reconvene their annual shareholders meeting to Monday. Ticker GME, Grace Michael Edwards. In terms of buyback news, we got Light and Wonder, ticker LNW, Larry, Nancy William. Their board authorized a new 1 billion share repurchasing program. Wow, that's a big number for them. So LNW, the stock isn't opened yet, but we'll see how that affects the stock LNW when they do open. And that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape today, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to end the week?
I'm going to go with ExxonMobil, ticker XOM, X-Ray Oscar Michael. I mean, the negative sentiment is broad. It's getting a little better. SPOOs are only down 0.36% now, but it's still there. And when you start dealing with the negative sentiment around, you got to think two sectors. You got to think energy and you got to think healthcare. And I don't know if healthcare is going to be arranged, but I do see oil prices rising. ExxonMobil's been weak lately, so that negative sentiment, has me pushing towards energy today. And Exxon's a good pick. I mean, look at yesterday's call volume, not positive. I mean, 47,058 on the call side, put volume 69,252. Okay, but the open interest is positive, 666,818 versus 549,129. Major brokers have their overweight ratings, and that's what I want to see. I'm hoping to get in under 110. I'm hoping for a little weakness to maybe be able to pull off a trade at 109.30, 109.50, somewhere around there. That's kind of my entry price. 109. Let's say call it 109.40. And if I can get in it there, I think I'll have a good shot for a game because I think oil prices will start to move higher and there'll be some positive action in oil stocks once you see oil start to rise. But that's what I have for you for my pick of the day, Emily. ExxonMobil, ticker XOM.
Looking to take advantage of some volatility in the energy sector today. Price. We will follow that along with you today. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day before we sign off for the weekend. So stick with us. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
GRI, Grace Richard India, GRI Bio announces a 1-for-13 reverse stock split. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, reports long-term data from phase 1/2 momentum TAL-1 study. B of A upgraded Hasbro stocks, ticker HAS, says it sees a 50% upside. Okay. Datadog down 2% in the pre-market after getting cut to sell by a second-tier broker. Ticker BOOM, boy, Oscar Michael. Steel Connect offers $16.50 per share to acquire DMC Global. UNH, there's a story out today that ensures that healthcare providers risk conflict of interest. Yeah, I could see that. ARM, ticker ARM. I mentioned that they're going to be added to the NASDAQ 100 index. They're taken over from Sirius XM, SIRI. And this is happening on Monday, June 24th. Target renewed private label push failed to stem market share, stem its market share drop. It's just not good enough, man. Ford, the company, will soon allow all of its dealers to sell electric vehicles. That's positive. Microsoft, they will not roll out Recall, which is an AI feature that tracks computer usage with its new computers next week. Instead, it'll provide a smaller group later, they said. Zscaler, JP Morgan raises rating to overweight from neutral. Teva, ticker TEVA, they're suing on Concept Therapeutics over alleged market monopoly. FAST, ticker FAST, Frank Apple, Sam Tom, stock's getting hit. There's anticipation of a negative downgrade on it's coming out soon on FAST, the retailer. Tyson Foods, what can you say? CFO got arrested again. He's the grandson of the founder. Yeah, that guy's got to go. That's what I have for you in terms of news in the tape this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we get into Friday trading, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day. I pointed it out earlier in the show. During earnings, it was RH. Now, as you told us during your earnings report, they did release earnings after the bell yesterday. They reported an EPS of a loss of 40 cents. Now, analysts were looking somewhere around a loss of 9 cents, so a miss there. But revenue for the quarter came in at $727 million, and that was actually slightly ahead of analysts' estimates of $725.2 million. During your NewsWare alerts, you also gave us that note on guidance. You were playing this one ahead of earnings yesterday, and you specifically said you were cautious about holding it into earnings. So how did your call work out?
Well, it actually worked out well. I mean, this is stock opened up at 286.33, then briefly fell back down to 285.77, crossed back up over the opening price, which is always a positive sign, and then ran all the way up to 290.10. So, yeah, there was your 1%. Now, listen, it did fall, for the most part, the rest of the day. But I did trade it yesterday during the day. What did I do? I picked some up at 276.34, and then I ran it then I ran that 1% and I walked away. And then I noticed at the end of the day, right before the earnings came out, you saw the stock at 284 on the bid. So, I mean, I got out with my 1% or a little earlier than that, but you know what, that 1% was definitely there a couple of times yesterday. So RH, I didn't want to hold it in earnings because, I didn't love it. It didn't hit all my boxes. It didn't check all my boxes, but the volatility was there. And that's really what this was, without, I like to trade volatility around earnings and, not rather than the earnings themselves. And when I can get a gain like that, I got to be happy. And I got a gain on Restoration Hardware, ticker RH, Richard Henry. So I got to be happy, Emily.
Got to be happy with that. Like you said, a couple of chances for that 1%. That and walking away. And we will check in with you on Monday about today's ExxonMobil pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.